All right, and those.
Cut my tree
Hold
down.
on. He's on the property line attending to a tree that he doesn't want to have any issues with. That is your opinion. But I'm not the neighborly police. I'm the regular police.
She's probably cooling off, right? Or whatever.
No.
Unfortunately, this is one of the worst parts of real estate. Dealing with bad neighbors, problemsome neighbors, and people who just don't want to help one another. Check out this video right here. This is going to be very interesting. We're going to watch this. Let's check this out.
I got a GoPro on. My GoPro can see it all.
Yeah, so my question to you is, if you get any branches that you see that are dead...
Oh, I took it. There's a ton of dead in there.
So I need...
Listen, there's going to be a video, bro. Oh, yeah, she's running. Come on, Frank. Is she cursing? He's got...
That's my tree. You don't cut my tree down. That's not the tree. Their trucks parked on my grounds.
So the tree, do you think it damaged the tree?
I think they're trespassing.
Okay.
And they're cutting down my property. I mean, this isn't the first time they've done that.
So there is a really big misconception and kind of like what people think about property lines. Most people think that a fence is a property line, or the fence that's been there for 100 years is the property line. And in most states, a fence is nothing more than a fence, and it doesn't tell you where the property line is. Only a survey does. And he who has a survey wins. And I always feel for neighbors that have to deal with this. I deal with clients all the time having to deal with people in the community that want to come and tell you what you can't cut down on your own property, what tree you can't cut down. And most of the time, when I run into people like this, they're wrong, okay? And I always say, one, if it's not in writing and you can't show it to me, I'm not going to believe you. Two, he who has a survey always wins. And three, if you're not a subject matter expert in something, don't go into that scope or a scope of field or knowledge or that area, okay? Especially as law enforcement. Stay within your scope. And in this case, we see an officer try his best to fix this situation. But then sometimes you need to just stop talking because you can't argue with ignorance.
Well, tree limbs which go onto someone else's property, they have the right to have them removed.
It wasn't hanging over. They were on my
Over
side.
their property, they can cut it. That's why I asked if it's damaged, because they can't damage the tree.
I really like how these guys film everything, because that's the only thing that really protects them in these situations. Because when the police report comes down and the cops get there, it's he said, she said. And most of the time when the other side's lying, the more they talk, the more you can tell they're lying. And they're lying to the police, which is usually a crime. So by you filming, and I've learned this as a YouTuber and making all these videos, that you have to always be filming, because they will lie to you, and when it's their word against yours, sometimes you could get in trouble. Always got to be filming, and in this situation, it proved that they were doing their job and following the letter of the law.
The gentleman, by the way, said that this hickory tree over here that's leaning this way is dead.
Okay.
So she's going to get a certified letter about that.
Okay.
Because obviously if there's an issue, there's an issue. But yeah, no, as long as, I told them, property line only, don't go beyond the property line. And yeah.
From how it looks to me,
Yes, sir.
they abided by what looks to me like a property line.
Well, that's what they were instructed to do.
Yep, they did it.
He's actually a certified arborist.
Yes, I know the company has an arborist, so I respect the fact that what they are doing.
Neighbors' trees can cause a ton of damage in real estate. I mean, they fill your gutters, they fall on your roof, they can be a problem during storms, and sometimes the insurance companies will make you cut them down. And in these situations, it'd be just a lot easier if both neighbors work together, they clean it up together, and they have a well taken care of properties. Both of them have well taken care of properties, and just work with each other instead of whining about which side you're supposed to be on. And especially when you elevate in the air, like laws change, like they're using a boom and they're operating around this electrical power line, which is dangerous. And if she would just say, hey, just be safe. Let's do this proper. Do the best you can. I don't want my trees cut, but let's do the best we can. People can be safe and civil.
All right, and those.
Cut my tree
Hold
down.
on. I know you got to talk, you got to speak. I'm just going to tell you my observations and how this is being handled. Now, is that this is not a criminal matter
I know it's not a criminal matter,
at all.
but it's a trespassing matter.
It's not a trespassing matter. Okay?
Right.
There's only two things that this could really be in the eyes of law enforcement, which would be a trespassing complaint
Yes.
or criminal mischief. It's not criminal mischief because they're not doing any harm or damaging of trees, okay? And it's not a trespass complaint because not a single person has stepped foot onto your property, okay? They're not going
They're
into
hovering over my property.
They're hovering over your property to do it safely due to whatever the mechanism that they
then
have
you
to do.
ask your neighbor. You don't. If you come into somebody's yard without
I'm
their
not
permission,
disputing that, but I'm not the neighborly police. I'm the regular police.
if you come into somebody's yard without their permission, it's trespassing.
Correct.
He's in my property now.
Well, that's just your opinion. I'm going to say he's not in your property.
He is.
He's on the property line attending.
And see, she's saying they're committing a criminal act. And you have to be really careful in these situations. Not a lawyer, but the more you talk to the police in these situations, the more you're putting yourself in danger because they will use everything against you. And she's she's sending over some pretty hard accusations of trespass, destroying property. And the arborist and the other homeowners like, no, we have the right to. We're not doing this criminally. We don't have mens rea or a guilty mind. We're not trying to actually damage her property. We're trying to cut our property. We're trying to cut the limbs that are damaging our property. We've hired the right licensed people. What else do you want us to do? We're doing our best. And once you say that to the police, then I feel like you need to just sit back and say, sir, there's no, this is the survey. That fence is correct or not correct. You can't legitimately prove trespassing because that fence might not be the property line. It could be 6 inches over. It could be a foot over. Either way. The police don't have that at that moment. So it's really hard to prove trespass. And I think any good prosecutor is going to be like, look, man, they're just trying to trim trees. But you see, she's having some very harsh accusations that put somebody in a lot of trouble. And she's threatening to sue. That's dangerous. But here's what I'll say about this. In my part of the country, you have heritage trees, ones you're not supposed to cut, and they can fine you if they do. A lot of people never actually look up what a heritage tree is and what are the dimensions of what you can actually cut. And they will just start calling the law. I've had them do it on crepe myrtles, palm trees, all these things, and come to find out they're not protected. The trees they're talking about are not even protected. And they'll do it to the county all the time, especially when you develop these large, big pieces of property. They'll say, oh, they're cutting all the trees. Well, not all of them are protected. Some are scrubs, some are weeds, some are just trash trees. But then there are some beautiful trees that you want to cut. The big heritage oaks, the big heritage magnolias, things like that. But even those trees can cause serious damage. One of them fell on my mom's house, split right in half, crushed the whole roof. I've seen these magnolia trees and hurricanes fall on houses and just crush the whole house. So it's all a catch-22. But, when you're dealing with these type of properties, like you really got to know the rules and realize the other people probably don't know the rules. And they just keep echoing these laws that are not true. And then when the sheriff's department pulls up, you're hoping the deputy or the police officer knows the law or knows what he doesn't know to say, hey, this is a civil matter. This is not a criminal matter. You're going to have to take this up in civil court. Because most of this is civil. Even dealing with code enforcement and big trees, and they're close to a property line or they're close to a public right-of-way, they're going to be like, hey, this is a civil matter. We're not touching this. So you got to know that or consult your own attorney to find these things out. But this is a prime example of how this can spiral out of control. I've seen people fight over this stuff. I mean, like actually fight over it. And no property line is worth fighting over it, especially for 6 inches. Now, if this was, a foot for a mile and it turned out to be 30 acres because it's so far, okay, maybe, or they're cutting a road through there and you're going to damage all your property. They did that to my dad. He owned a road he bought. It was a private road. County came in one day and started bulldozing everything. I mean, like some beautiful hedgerows and everything, and they were like, civil matter, sue us. And that's how that usually goes down. But always make sure you got your survey on.
To a tree that he doesn't want to have any issues with. That is her opinion. So what I would recommend that you do is because this is a civil issue, is if you have a problem, is do as they are doing and record the situation and hire an attorney and present a suit against the company, or present a suit against your neighbor.
Not against these people, it's against,
Well,
wouldn't be against these people.
they were given specific instructions not to go beyond what is their property, damage.
So he's allowed to come in my property?
He's not coming on your property.
He was just on my property.
He is on your property no more than if someone was flying a drone in the air.
Which is also not legal.
It is legal. There's nothing against the law for that. People
are
allowed.
Drop these in my yard too, and that's okay.
Branches fall. Branches do fall, and if you want,
he put there.
and if you want, and you want them to pick up any branches that broke off as a result of their work,
my property.
well, then they can't really pick up the branches, then, right?
They shouldn't be cutting down my tree.
In the state of Florida, you usually have to be like trespassed with paper before you're trespassing, and given the opportunity to leave before they'll arrest you for trespassing. This is a different state. Every one of these things we're talking about here is going to change by state. Alabama's different than Texas, Florida, northern states. So know your laws. Study them before you do any of this or engage in all of it. And ignorance is no excuse. But if you have a survey, you know where the property line is, and they don't, prove it. Okay? Prove I'm trespassing. I'm the only one here with a survey. If your survey does not conflict with mine, I did a video on property lines. Like, the judge is going to order a third survey to be done, and I've seen fourth surveys be ordered, and odds are they're going to be down to, you know, the same within 6 inches or a foot, but you will see different survey companies come out with different numbers. So that's why I'm saying, just as a law enforcement officer, you can't sit there and determine where exactly that property line is. I have LandGlide and some other apps that'll get you close. I mean, within a foot or so. It's not going to make you perfect. So to say you're trespassing or not, especially when you're not trying to do anything wrong, you're just trimming a tree that's going to cause damage, and there's a licensed arborer there that knows what he's doing, I feel like you got to stay within the scope of knowledge, and that deputy, that cop, did a very good job of that. And he was very professional, and he did the right thing. I just think he talked to the lady a little too much, because she is going to go and use every word he said against him, and hopefully the police chief and the sheriff will stick up for him. And looks like they did in this situation. These guys did a really good job. This tree service, I think they're called Middlesex Tree LLC. They have a YouTube channel. Go check them out. Go like and subscribe. They do some great stuff. Thought this was a really good learning video for everybody, because my idea here today is to educate you on things that happen in real estate that I see all the time.
Well, it's not your tree per se.
Yes, it is.
The tree itself is,
no,
but
it is
anything,
exactly my tree.
Anything which goes beyond is not yours. Any branch that comes onto their property is their responsibility to take care of.
That branch right there that he cut is not over the line.
I'm looking right here. Everything right there. He could go all the way up.
That one. Over here.
Which one?
When your fellow officer was standing here with me, this one right here.
The dead one?
No, he cut a branch off of that. It's not dead. He cut those branches
That one right
off.
there. It looks like it's exactly on the line.
No, this one.
I see it right here. The jagged part right there comes out.
It's over here. It
I
doesn't
don't.
go over the line because he cut it.
I don't.
know, like what one person thinks is neighborly is not necessarily what another person thinks is neighborly. I do think they should, you know, just be nice to each other and work for the greater good of both their houses. But that's not really my call, and it seems like she's the one that's not wanting to do that. But that's also my opinion, because you never know what could have transpired previously against each other. But I think if they just sat down and said, what can we do to work together, their lives would be a lot easier.
Hold on.
Again, this I don't see as being at all a criminal issue. I don't even think it's a civil issue, but if you wish to make it a civil issue, then you can do so.
It is.
I really feel for this guy to sit here and argue with her over this for this long. Clearly, see, we're not arguing over inches here. Like, it's just a waste of everybody's time.
Or a property line in the state of Connecticut or in the country.
To the left of where he is, he cut that one. You can see where it's cut off.
Okay.
That's in my property.
I'm not seeing it, but okay.
Because you don't want to.
What do you mean I don't want to? Now you're making.
You guys.
Yeah,
Every
well,
time.
you're making an assumption about me.
The guy.
I've never even met you.
The last time the officer was out here, they're over the line, and you're not calling up for trespassing, and they're parked on my grass.
They're not over the line.
The
They're not on your. Where are they on your grass?
They're on my grass.
They're not on your grass.
The car.
Oh, then maybe they already did move it. But
They didn't.
I don't
You didn't
see.
even tell them.
I don't see anywhere where they're parked on your grass. I maybe parked a little bit on your grass from when I came in,
They're parked
but
on my grass.
Now, if they damaged her fence by dropping those limbs, I would totally understand. And hopefully they would pay for it, or she could sue for damages. But that's what I'm saying. Like, where I live and where I operate as an investor and a real estate professional, like, that fence, if it's on her property, her fence. If it's on their property, their fence. Who has the invoices, etc., who built the fence. But just because there's a fence there doesn't mean it's your property. If you accidentally built the fence on her property, probably gonna wind up her fence. Comment down below if I'm wrong or if you've got a different opinion. If I built it on my property, my fence, and if she drops that tree on my fence, well, I might have damages. You know, not a lawyer, but that's how I see all this. This is my opinion. Comment down below with what you think on this, because I'd like to hear what everybody thinks about situations, mean people. And is it really that big a deal? It's not close to a house. The tree limb's not going to drop on a house. It's not going to drop on a shed. We'll get it done, everybody. Let's chill out.
which means that there are facts and circumstances that would lead a reasonable officer to believe that someone has committed a crime. And if it's not within the letter of the crime, then the crime was not committed, or I don't have enough to prove that a crime was committed. So while you may...
Well, you could tell him, don't go over the line.
That's right. They've already been instructed not to go over the property line.
He did it right in front of your face, and he did it in front of the
He
other
moved
officer's
his
face.
barrel across it, yes, but I don't believe he is intentionally cutting anything going beyond any line. And I'm not going to tell him that he can't go to a space to say protected from a power line in order to do his job. And if you don't like how he's doing his job, then you should file a civil lawsuit against the company.
I don't want them in my property.
They're not in your property.
And I don't want them damaging my property.
I don't want them to either.
And I'm looking over here, and I'm seeing that they cut things that were over there.
I understand that's not, but that's the way it works, unfortunately. Is that the police don't have... Okay, so continue to document it, and then if you feel that they have committed a civil penalty, then you'll have to bring it up through small claims court. You'll have to get a tort.
I have seen some of these cases spiral out of control, and people with money start playing games, and it costs a ton of money just to fight over a tree limb. Let's don't be that way, everybody. But don't forget to like and subscribe. This is very interesting. Know your rules and know, hey, get a survey, hire a professional, know where your property line is, and if you get hemmed up by the police, know your rights. Don't talk too much. Do what you're supposed to do. And if it goes down, get legal counsel, because if you go to sell that property and she's next door causing this problem and all the neighbors know she's the problem, your property is going to be hard to sell because you have a bad neighbor. A bad neighbor can hurt a property value more than just about anything else. And especially ones that don't take care of the property next door, or ones that, like, you could have a palace and a bad neighbor and nobody want to be there. Or you could have a trailer with amazing neighbors and have a great life. So just think about that. I'll see you guys in the next video, and stay warm because it's cold in Florida right now. See you later.